The paramedic moved through the quiet streets as if the world had forgotten. She existed, her boots silent on the asphalt, her eyes alert for anything out of place. The sun had barely risen, but the neighborhood already held its usual rhythm of early morning chores and the distant hum of engines. She kept her head down as she passed houses that all looked the same to her: neat rows of windows, locked doors, and gardens carefully tended. Yet she noticed everything: the subtle shifts in shadows, the way a car engine hesitated when started, the faint smell of smoke in an alley behind a closed bakery. She carried her kit close to her body and checked her watch. She was early, but punctuality had always been a shield for her, and shields were necessary. When no one knew who you were inside the emergency room, she washed her hands, slowly feeling the cool water run over her fingers, and she rehearsed her calm, steady smile for anyone who might come through the sliding doors. People trickled in small cases: a child with a scraped knee, an elderly man clutching his chest, a woman faint from heat exhaustion each time she bent down to examine them. She did so with meticulous care, her touch firm but reassuring, her voice soft but commanding enough to instill confidence. No one asked about her past, and she never volunteered that information. She existed in the space between crises, a ghost that left behind only healed wounds and whispered advice. Then the soldier appeared, his uniform dusty and torn as if he had walked through a storm of debris and fire. The moment she saw him, she sensed something familiar but distant, the kind of familiarity that haunted your mind in dreams but evaporated with morning light. He leaned against the counter, his body shaking not from weakness but from memory. He whispered a single word that sliced through the steady rhythm of her day: Fallujah. The syllables clung to the walls as if the room itself understood the weight of them. She froze, her hands lingering over the paperwork she was supposed to file, her heart picking up a rhythm she had not felt in years. She remembered then the desert, the sand that burned against her boots, the smoke and screams that filled the night, and the faces she had sworn never to see again. The soldier did not look at her directly. He stared past her as if she were a ghost herself. He repeated the words softly and then stopped, letting the silence stretch between them. A rope she felt tightening around her chest. She wanted to ask him why now, after all these years, but the words stuck in her throat. Her mind raced through memories. She had carefully locked away her actions in the field, the choices she had made that had saved lives and destroyed others. She had hoped that those days were behind her, but the soldier had unearthed them with a whisper. The hospital carried on, oblivious to the tension that had descended. The beeping of monitors, the shuffle of nurses, and the distant call of a PA system continued as usual. She moved around the soldier as if he were an obstacle rather than a human being in need of help, administering first aid and checking vital signs. Without acknowledging the storm that his presence had unleashed, her hands trembled slightly, but only enough to notice herself, and she took a deep breath to regain control. Every movement was precise, calculated, a dance she had performed thousands of times before, but today, each motion felt charged with meaning. Outside the hospital, the streets were waking. The sun climbed higher, and the shadows shortened, revealing details she usually ignored. A newspaper flapped against a fence, a child chased a dog down the sidewalk, and a delivery truck honked at a car that was too slow. Each scene seemed normal, but she could not stop seeing the connections to her past. The way small incidents mirrored the chaos she had witnessed overseas. The soldier spoke again, this time naming events in Fallujah, incidents that had no record in official documents. Names of people that were whispered only in the dark. She listened quietly, her face impassive, but inside a storm raged. She wondered who had survived, who had recognized her, and how long it had taken for the past to find her. She left the soldier under the care of another nurse and stepped outside to breathe the morning air, her body tenser, mind spinning. The streets smelled of gasoline and wet asphalt, and she realized she had not eaten. She walked slowly, noticing the ordinary life unfolding around her while simultaneously remembering the extraordinary life she had tried to bury. The soldier would return. She knew it instinctively, and each time he appeared, the layers of the life she had constructed quietly in this town would peel away. Exposing the raw nerves of memory and guilt, her routine became a delicate balance between appearing normal and anticipating the next encounter. She checked the emergency logs each day, tracing any calls from areas that might be connected to incidents. In Fallujah, any anomaly made her pulse quicken and forced her to recall events she had worked hard to suppress. She avoided mirrors and long conversations, preferring the safety of anonymity in a world that seemed blissfully unaware of the horrors. She carried inside her the soldier was always in the background, a shadow she could not escape the word. Fallujah echoing silently in her mind, signal that the past was reaching across time and space to touch her present hand, yet she continued her work helping those who stumbled into crisis, her hands steady, her voice calm, a fragile barrier against the tidal wave of memory that threatened to overwhelm her. Each patient was a reminder that life continued, that normalcy could exist even when the darkness of history loomed close. But the soldier and his whispered word remained a tether, pulling her toward a confrontation she knew was inevitable. She walked the halls with measured steps, carrying the secret of a life that was meant to be forgotten, and the unspoken understanding that Fallujah was no longer just a memory. It was a living presence that had found her again. The soldier returned each day, his presence, a quiet storm in the paramedic's orderly life. He did not speak much, but his eyes carried questions that could not be answered with simple words. She noticed the way he lingered near the corners of the hospital, watching her movements like a hawk circling a hidden prey. Every time he whispered Fallujah, her chest tightened, and she felt the cold weight of the past pressing against her. She moved through her shifts with practiced calm, but inside a tempest brewed memories she had thought long buried, clawing their way to the surface outside. The hospital, the town went about its ordinary life, unaware of the invisible threads tying her to a distant war. The smells of fresh bread and coffee floated through the morning air. Children ran to school, and dogs barked at passing cars, yet every routine sight felt charged with an underlying menace. She began noticing patterns, small hints that someone had been watching, tracing her movements, tracing every route. She took each emergency call, each neighborhood she visited. It was as if her quiet life had become a map for unseen eyes, and the soldier was the only one who knew light. At night, she reviewed her records, tracing every call connected to areas near Fallujah. She recognized names that had been whispered to her in broken Arabic, faces she had seen in smoke-filled streets and rubble, yet here they were in files filed away in a quiet suburban hospital. Her hands trembled as she realized the soldier was not just seeking answers, he was reconstructing a past that she had tried desperately to forget. Each time he appeared, the weight of recognition grew heavier, and she felt the fragile walls of anonymity crumble around her. She began to see danger in ordinary events, the sudden absence of a neighbor, a car parked too long on her street, a package left at her door unclaimed. She felt watched even in her own home, the shadows seeming to stretch closer with each passing day. The soldier remained a constant presence, always just far enough to watch, to prod, to remind her that the past had not released its grip. He never accused or demanded. He only observed and whispered hints of events that could destroy the quiet life she had built. Then came the night when she could no longer avoid confrontation. The soldier cornered her outside the hospital, his eyes intense and unblinking, the word Fallujah rolling from his lips like a chant. She understood then that he was both a messenger and a warning, that the consequences of buried secrets would find her even in the safest places. She felt the chill of inevitability, the awareness that the calm she had clung to was only an illusion, and that she would have to face the storm of memory and truth before it consumed everything. Her heart raced as she realized that the world she had constructed was fragile, her past was alive, and the soldier was the key to unlocking it. The night stretched on around them, the streetlights flickering, the silence broken only by their measured breaths and the weight of unspoken knowledge. The shadows were closing in, and she knew that what had been whispered could no longer remain a secret that the quiet paramedic would have to confront. Fallujah and everything it meant for her life and for those she had tried to save.